Alright, it looks like we're live here. We are outside the Jacob Riis Houses in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, where they've been experiencing issues with the water. The water's been contaminated. A few months ago, back in September or August, the water tested positive for arsenic. And then the mayor, NYCHA, and other elected officials were saying that the water was safe. The testing was false, but residents have been experiencing issues with the water and issues in their apartments. The water is actually coming out brown for some residents still. Alright, so the protest here is organized by a group called Dare to Struggle and also road residents. They've been doing a lot of work here at Jacob Riis and also in other NYCHA developments around the city. I'll show you some of the posters that they have set up here. They're going to be getting started in a few minutes.
Ready.
So as you can see in some of the apartments that Dare to Struggle has gone into, and they've collected statements from residents and photos of the walls molding and completely falling apart. There's a photo of the water, what it looked like on October 10th, 2022. All right, they're going to get started now.
Residents of Jacob Riis Houses. Test.
Wake up. If people come by, like, about flyers, I don't know what they're doing.
Hello? Residents of Jacob Riis Houses. Test. This place? Yeah.
Alright guys, while we're waiting for them to get started, please hit the like button and share the stream. Get the word out there, let people know that residents at Jacob Riis are still experiencing issues with their water. And now a new issue that they recently found out about back in April is the contaminated soil, which they're going to explain in a little bit. We have a few residents here who are coming to speak out.
Hold on. Test. Alright, you guys can hear me?
Yes.
Residents of Jacob Riis Houses. Today, Dare to Struggle and rogue residents Jacob Riis are putting on a protest and a speak out for you to come by and tell your stories of NYCHA's neglect and immiseration of the people living in public housing. The DEC and NYCHA came out recently to say that there are toxic chemicals in the soil underneath Jacob Riis Houses. We've confirmed with a third-party environmental lawyer that there is lead and arsenic present in the soil. The DEC claims that there are cancer-causing chemicals like benzene in the soil at Jacob Riis. This coming off of the arsenic crisis here back in September, where politicians came by to say there was nothing wrong at all, despite the fact that people have been dying, people have been sick. The projects are the site of the highest rate of asthma per capita in the city. This is no coincidence. What is going on here is as such. The people of Jacob Riis Houses are being slowly poisoned, and the politicians, the real estate interests in this city do not care. They are going full steam ahead with the demolition of two projects in the city. Elliott, Chelsea, and Fulton houses are facing demolition. Meanwhile, people across the city are dealing with rats and roaches and mold and crumbling apartments that is putting their families and their health at risk. and up to the crisis that is the arsenic and contaminated soil here, where these issues are compounding on the people. There has been no diligent urgency from the city, from NYCHA, and especially not from Eric Adams, who comes by just to make a mockery of people suffering here. If you have a story, if you had water coming out brown, if you know someone who had high levels of arsenic in their blood, come by, speak out. Does anyone here want to start? Anyone here want to tell their story? We got press here. Our greatest weapon in this fight is exposure. She's coming over. Okay. How you doing?
Hi. My name is Judy Wade. I live on 178.
You want to be on here?
It doesn't matter to me.
No, you just pull the trigger and let it rip.
Hi. Hello. My name is Judy Wade. I've been living here since 2004. I noticed in 2006 that the water was brown. Okay, I had a problem with my faucet, and the worker came up and opened the thing up. It was full of rocks. Okay, and from that time on, I stopped drinking the water. But I've been taking pictures. I got videos and pictures on my phone of the water when it's running brown, and it's just like everybody in my on my floor has gotten sick. You know, we feel tired, exhausted, and then we got the mold, and then I can't understand why they're messing with the area over here when they're supposed to be fixing the levee. You know, so they want to build other buildings on top of it instead of fixing the levee. So therefore, we're going to be sabotaged. It's, you know, it's going to be a big problem. You know, and then they want to dig up the dirt. The dirt. They. I don't understand why are they so interested in digging the dirt up. I mean, all they're doing is poisoning us, sabotages. I see it slowly happen. I be watching everything. And housing, they're just so neglective and abusive. The lady got mad with me because I sent a message to Michaela about them digging up the dirt, and she called me and said, well, there's no arsenic in the water. I said, yes, it is. Y'all just trying to set us up so we could become homeless. I've been homeless before. I've been out there. I refuse to be homeless again because of somebody's greed and neglect. And anything else, you know, everybody has to get together and stick together and fight this. We got so few people out here. Everybody's suffering from this. And they're not even getting out here to fight. That's why I came out, because I do have a lot to say. I have a lot written on my phone. And like I said, I have pictures and videos of all the water that was brown. Like I said, I stopped drinking water in 2007. I started buying my water. And the mold, and then I'm looking at they're supposed to be fixing the pillars in the buildings too. They started the work, then they stopped. I called some people, they said that the Sandy people, they were supposed to have been taking care of that. But in the meantime, I got pictures of in the building where you can see it's cracks breaking up. That was never there before. And I took 2 floors, and I took the pictures, and I got them marked off as to how much they've increased. So, and then the water coming down from the roofs and the water. They don't want to fix, no, it's like they fix up the effort, you know. It's like putting a Band-Aid on everything. Every week it's the elevators, it's something. They just don't care about us. You know, they just feel that we are not, our lives are they don't mean anything to them because that's all they want is the money. Okay, I'm going to give somebody else a chance to talk. If I have anything else to say, I will come back up.
How's everybody? Thanks for coming. I'm only one person with one voice and one story. But ever since my son passed away on September 8th of 2022, I was skeptical myself that it was the water or the contamination here. However, in these past 10 months, I've done so much homework and find out that the mayor's lying. Dan Green is not going to do nothing for the people. Neither is Harvey Epstein or Dan Goldman. And I just come here to say that I'm tired of just showing bottles of water. I want them to see exactly what exactly is going on here. So, give me a second. Oh, man.
You got it, Mike. You got it.
Since September 8th of 2022, there has been no testing. Facade said there shouldn't be any testing, which is the health commissioner, which came here to drink the water with Mayor Adams. And since then, they tried to break the ground here. I made the whole unit go back home because I told them they couldn't break the ground here because it's contaminated. Now, also, Rodney Rivera said they only dig less than 2 feet because there's a 2-foot cap. But if that was true and you think I'm lying, then you need to go to YouTube/Mayor Adams Riis Houses, and you will go back to 10 months of stories that you could tell that they are lying. There's piles of dirt sitting behind Mayor Adams with a kid that's about approximately 8 years old, and he has 6 feet piles of dirt behind him. I sent the picture to my lawyer. They thought I doctored it. But if you want, you can see the picture on YouTube, like I said, /Mayor Adams Riis Houses. Thank you very much.
We got someone else in rotation. Don't worry about it.
Hey guys, just a reminder, if you're not a member of Status Coup, please join up. Go to statuscoup.com/join. It's only $5 to $10 a month, and you'll be supporting us on our reporting, on the ground reporting.
I don't know. That's a good question. What's got mic check?
Mic check one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm glad everybody came out today, the ones who decided to come out today. I'm a resident of the Riis Houses, Jacob Riis, and I've been living here with contaminated water. My issue started in May. I have 2 bottles. Can somebody hold my cane, please? 1 bottle, you can see that's clearly dirt. And this happens to my house on a regularly basis. When I call management, I am told I will get called back, and there's no callbacks. Now, this is the one that you can clearly see that's contaminated. This bottle, if you don't shake it, you can't see it much. But when you do, it is brown too. And there are particles hanging also in this bottle of water. This is also reported to management. What do you want me to do about it, is the response. So as a resident of this, living with this contaminated water, air, soil, lack of repairs, and lack of transparency from NYCHA, when we reach out to the management, our administrators and other authorities, their response is very negative, and we are dismissed as if we do not exist. Excuse me. Politicians like Adams have pulled status stunts, on TV, which you all have seen, where he came here and drank the water, which was highly fresh water, because the person has a filtration system. Just so the real news knows what's going on, okay? So he came in, he downplayed the severity of the situation, and the people here, like Rodney Rivera of the DC, Dan Green from NYCHA, and other politicians and other developments pushing for the privatization. They're so worried about making these apartments private, but in the meantime, we're still living with these situations. We still have tenants with walls breaking down, rats, roaches, coming through their doors, and they worried about making this private. That's their goal, period. They're trying to remove us so they can get this done, and they also are tricking us into it by not telling us that it only takes a certain amount of percentage for the vote to go through. So we know what's going on. The residents are taking steps because of this. We are not getting answers from no one. So because of this, we are taking it upon ourselves to hold protests until we can't protest anymore and until changes are made. And believe me, changes will be made. We want clean water. That is everybody's right. We are not in a third world country. Healthy living conditions where our children can breathe in their own apartments and not develop asthma from the mold because housing refuses to make the repairs. Repair the homes. Transparency. Be honest. Tell us what's actually going on. The meetings that you have behind closed doors with your suits and ties on, tell us those results. Give us that information. We deserve that. We pay the rent. You go to your posh apartments and you leave us here with this to live with. It is not right and it's not fair humanly. And on my last note, no privatization. Go somewhere else. Do it to somebody else. Leave NYCHA residents alone. From the Lower East Side to Uptown to Brooklyn to the Queens, leave the privatization alone. It's a joke. It's a way to get rid of tenants. They lie to you and tell you they're going to fix it and make it posh, and the poshness is not for you. When you come back, you will be displaced. And displacement is not into another apartment. It's into a shelter that is crowded, which means you will end up on the street. And they are not going to tell you that. Period. Residents have the right to know how everything around us is being affected. All this construction, all the trucks that come in after 1 o'clock in the morning, all the water trucks that come in at 2 o'clock in the morning. What is going on? What is that for? Why is the water still dirty if the work is being done? Answers to real questions, to real people who are paying real rent. Thank you.
Buenas tardes. Primeramente vamos a darle un aplauso a esta gente que se están preocupando por la vivienda de nosotros. Amén. Amén. Soy una mujer cristiana. Todos somos cristianos. Le servimos un Dios vivo. No estamos aquí con mentiras. Amén. Yo me mudé aquí en estos proyectos en el 1961. Tengo 68 años. Donde primero me crié fue aquí. Después me crié en el 108. Y ahora vivo en el 819. Les quiero decir que esto es poquito para todos los que viven en todo este Bajo Manhattan, en toda esta área. No podemos hablar por aquel, ni por aquel, ni por aquel. Tenemos que hablar para nosotros, porque los demás están echados para atrás esperando que tú hagas su trabajo. Y no es así. Yo he trabajado con las comunidades. Yo he sido levantada de lo de abajo. Pero estamos viviendo en el fango, en la porquería. Porque nosotros mismos le hemos dado esa oportunidad. ¿Cuántos dicen estamos de acuerdo? Muchos no se atreven a hablar porque tienen miedo a perder sus trapos apartamentos que no sirven. Tan podridos. Por debajo de los fregaderos tú no puedes cocinar porque las ratas, las cucarachas, mimes, huimos de todo, gusanos, se te meten en el oído. Yo estuve en coma un mes y yo todavía me sigo bebiendo esta agua, no me la bebo, pero se cocina. ¿Y cómo vamos a vivir? Ahora, digo yo, si ustedes todos se unieran y pelearan la buena batalla, porque esta batalla es tuya, es tuya, es tuya, es mía, es de todo el mundo. Y dejamos de estar hablando, murmullando, bochichando y no te pones para tuyo. Amén. Y yo soy así. Hay que ser claro como el agua. Porque si no, ya están mandando los papeles para subir la gente. ¿Y el trabajo dónde está? Yo dije que yo no voy a pagar gente. No voy a pagar nada. Porque nosotros nos merecemos cosas mejores. We do need better things. No porque somos boricua, tenemos que vivir en el fango. Somos boricua y con mucho honor y con mucho orgullo. Hay dominicanos, hay niños enfermos de epilepsia, hay niños autísticos viviendo en estos apartamentos. Y esta gente lo que hacen es que se sientan en las calles, pero tú le dices, ¡ay! Y allí van, pero cuando hay para hablar, nadie se atreve a hablar. Yo digo, conmigo pueden contar. Cuenten conmigo. Aquí nosotros vinimos para defender nuestra patria, nuestra casa, nuestra vivienda, todo. Hay que defendernos. Si Martin Luther King puso todo y hizo libre a los morenos, ¿y nosotros qué? Hay que moverse, hermano. Hay más de 5,000 gente viviendo en todos estos proyectos, que esto aquí es para estar lleno, hasta allá. Por eso es que ellos no se mueven, porque todo te lo dejan aquí. Oh, ellos hablan por ti, Comay, habla por ti, pero no deje que otro hable por ti. Y con esto les quiero decir que desde hoy en adelante el tiempo se acerca. Cristo está a las puertas. Amén. Y no podemos vivir la religión, pero hay que meter a Dios. Porque sin Dios no somos nadie. Amén. ¿Y qué pasa? Vamos a vivir lo bueno y no lo barato. Aquí hay gente pagando 8,000, gente pagando 3,000, 4,000 de gente, y estamos viviendo en jatonera. Yo lo siento mucho, pero cualquiera de ustedes se pueden acercar a mí. Yo voy a la iglesia de la pastora Evelyn Negrón, evangelista, misionera, le doy comida a los homeless, trabajo con los homeless, con los presos, con todo. Y yo me gasto para mi Dios y para ustedes también. Cojan mi número si quieren y vamos todos a hincar los ojos y vamos a orar, porque esto hay que llevarlo delante de la presencia de Dios. Amén. Vamos a orar. Cierren sus ojos. Aleluya. Santo. Dear Father, we come to you today, my Lord, asking forgiveness for any word that we have said here today. But Father, we are tired. We are so tired of living the way we live. But what about those, the immigrants that are coming this way, to get the best when we don't even live the right. Father God, you in control of everything. Father God, you're the only way. You are the truth. You are the life. And there's a saying in your word that nothing moves if you don't give the consent. Father, and we ask you, Lord, to move every paper, to touch the hearts, to touch everybody, and let these people that work for Jacob Riis, for 250 Broadway, touch their hearts, and let them see the way we begging and we asking for mercy, mercy, mercy. See it, everybody. Mercy, mercy, mercy me. Hallelujah. Huh? You gotta hustle, you gotta work. Work for yours. Don't give up. I didn't give up in coma. Don't give up. That's the last thing you shall do. And everybody picks up their hand and say, thank you, Lord. Because you heard our prayers. In the name of the Father and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Yes.
Yes. Life is yours.
Don't give up.
Go forward. And if you unite, we get better. The more we push together, the better.
You made it on.
That's it. It's for me. No protest, no sound. For the house. Everybody
you
else
see them, right?
No. I know a few people that want to come, but they have their own system. That's it.
You see the game, right?
That's it, mama. Yeah, well. Yeah.
You're going to read the Spanish part.
I want to find out. I want to find
Protesta contra el agua tóxica, la tierra contaminada.
All I say, mira, yo vivo allí en 75, 13 feet. You guys want to be? Call me. Now I'm going to go and I come down, and we go that way. Mira, put them that I would pay mind to it. I said, oh my God.
You gotta put God in this.
Yeah.
If you don't put God, we ain't going nowhere.
Oh, definitely.
We got other people's stickers if you want to wait.
I always put God in front, honey. God is first of anybody. And I always say, God, you without you with nobody.
God is first.
That's right. And without him with nobody. Okay, God bless my mom. That's it. Everybody, we all got to unite.
Protesta contra el agua tóxica, la tierra contaminada, el desplazamiento y la vexación. Los residentes de Jacob Riis Houses han estado viviendo con agua, aire y tierra contaminados, con falta de reparaciones y falta de transparencia por parte de la ciudad y NYC. Cuando nos comunicamos con la oficina de manejo, los administradores y otras autoridades de la ciudad, somos rechazados o ignorados de manera grosera sin ninguna solución a nuestros problemas. Políticos como Eric Adam han mentido en la televisión para minimizar la gravedad de la situación aquí. Y gente como Ronnie Rivera del DEC, Dan Green de NYC y otros políticos desarrolladores que quieren la privatización no se preocupan lo suficiente como para tomar medidas para garantizar la salud y la seguridad de la gente que viven aquí. Debido a esto, los residentes han organizado una protesta de estas condiciones y para demandar lo siguiente: agua limpia, condiciones de vida saludables, reparaciones en los apartamentos, pruebas transparentes de la tierra, el agua, aire y los residentes en Jacob Riis Houses y publicar los resultados públicamente. No a la privatización ni el desplazamiento. Los residentes tienen derecho a saber cómo su salud se va a afectar por las toxinas en la tierra debajo de Riis Houses y cómo van a ser afectados por este plan de limpieza. NYCHA y los funcionarios de la ciudad no están respondiendo a la urgencia de la situación con ninguna acción sincera.
Is there anyone else who wants to come up, tell their story about what they've been going through? Speak to any of the water situation that they've been having, because people here are still having brown water come out of the taps, cloudy water still coming out of the taps. On top of this, you have people with just the rampant repair issues present. So this is an environmental health catastrophe inside and outside people's homes here at Jacob Riis. So I want to know if anyone else wants to speak to the situation here.
I want to speak to the proper people that we got to go to. The day we're going to take it, the people that are in charge of all this, that's when I speak for everything I have to say.
I mean, we've been taking it to them.
Wasn't there?
You know?
Who did that?
No, I didn't. What happened was that I had to take care of my granddaughter and stuff. I can't take a break.
No,
But
I
I'll
know.
tell you one thing. Just call me, tell me we're going down there. I'll be there. You told me 6 o'clock, I'll be there 5.
I mean, in light of the fact that there are demolitions of 2 NYCHA developments in the city happening in tandem with this health crisis here, you know, and developments around the city are facing similar conditions, you know. So if people want to like branch out to other projects, if other projects want to take on what the residents in Jacob Riis are taking on, coming together week after week to organize, call up other residents, to have events, call press, and keep this relevant and make this a problem for the city. We've been going door to door with residents for the last 10 months. Residents have been calling up each other, having meetings, and strategizing on how to take on this Goliath of an issue, which is the city and all the real estate interests that are united in displacing people here. And so we wanted to wait for a couple of words from an environmental lawyer, Joel. He was at the DEC meeting, you know, putting the facts out straight. So we're going to wait for him to be done with his 5 minutes of limelight. And
But you're clear, right? Why don't you let everybody know now that you
Excuse
want
me.
to move
Excuse
on?
me.
Let them know
Right.
about the choices.
I'm sorry.
That they're going to come and knock on your door and give you the option
I'll
of
do
those
that.
choices.
I'll do
You should do that now. Be aware. Do not sign anything.
Yeah, let me do that.
Do not consent to
Let me do that.
anything. Those 3 choices are negative.
Okay.
It's on the west side.
Those 3 choices are negative.
Okay.
They don't know. If they come knocking on your door, the answer is no.
So, ladies and gentlemen, residents of NYCHA who can hear me within earshot of my voice, regarding the privatization, whoever knocks on your door, you need to let everybody know in your home, whoever knocks on your door and lets you know that they are trying to make this place private, the answer is no. All you have to do is be 18 and over to vote and say yes. What are they trying to do? They're trying to make it private, sell it to us as they're fixing up these apartments for us in luxury ways, and in reality, they are fixing them up. It's not for us, and we will be displaced. It only takes 20% for a building to be converted. If you live in a 13-story building, that's only 10 people to 20 people to say yes. The mother and father do not have to be home for this to happen. So let everybody know in your home, whoever knocks on the door and presents this privatization deal, it's a no. And let your head of household know that these people are trying to do this. So when they knock again, the head of household can say no. Tell your grandmother, your home health aide, your sons, your daughters, anybody over 18. Any knocks on the door, the answer is no. Just like when they set up the fake check situation. We all know who really gained from that. The lawyers, not us. Start saying no. Stop taking breadcrumbs from these people. They think that they can placate us with a $200 check when you spent over $3,000. in water and still spending. If they really cared, the money would still be coming non-stop because they know what's going on. So when you hear the knock, ignore it, and if somebody answers it, the answer is no to the act. The first one will be called the pact. The pact is designed to straight up privatization. The transition to Section 8 puts NYCHA buildings into management of private developers, who we all know will never ever care about us. So that's a definite no, okay? Now, the trust privatizes with a nonprofit cover, NYCHA and the city, which have been criminally negligent for years, will remain in charge of the properties. Transition to Section 8, promised funding would become private lenders who exploit housing developments for Section 8 for profit. So people who have Section 8 and who's been on the list for years, if this privatization goes through, guess what happens to your list and your Section 8? You will no longer be qualified. How about that? Number 3, total rejection of number 1 and 2, like I said before I read it. It's a hard no. I don't care. And what they're trying to do is, I'm hearing from people who refuse to do protests but want to talk about people on the bench. What I'm hearing is they're giving people new this and new that, and before you know it, those are the same apartments that will be knocked on the door. We're going to go private. Do you want to go private? And you're going to think about the floor that they just gave you. You're going to think about the stove they just gave you. Don't do that. Think about how long it took to get it. And think what's going to happen and who's going to be living there once you say yes. It's not going to be you. And like the woman said before, I don't speak Spanish, but I understood every word she said. I come from the old school. If you can't take care of home, you take care of no one. And Mayor Adams was so busy wanting to be fabulous, he took all these immigrants in and forgot about his hometown, which is us. Us. And once they fix up these apartments, guess who's going in first? Them. When they came and there was nowhere to live, did they pick up the homeless and put them on 42nd Street in Times Square? No. The immigrants were there. I never spent time in Times Square in a hotel with room service.
Let me tell you, let's pick it out.
And they bring in the immigrants in because straight off the bus, guess what they get? They get human resources, which is Medicaid, food stamps, and cash assistance. That's why your food stamps have been cut. They get a voter's registration card. Guess who they're going to vote for? The person who put them in Times Square. The person who's going to give them your apartment. That's who they're going to vote for. So remember, when they knock on your door, say no. Just like you say no to drugs, say no to them. Say no.
I want to clear something up for the people here. So these schemes that Linda put forward, the 3 choices that are going to come knocking on people's doors, is one for the PACT program, which is the New York implementation of the RAD privatization program, where they convert public housing into Section 8 housing, where now we're dealing with private landlords who get to do whatever they want with their tenants. The second option is the trust, which is essentially the same thing but with a nonprofit cover. So instead of having a private landlord, you have a board of people and 2 token residents as your landlord, who are going to make the same decisions that they're making now, leaving people in terrible conditions and casting them off when they no longer need them, or it's no longer profitable for them to remain in their homes. And number 3 is reject the trust, reject PACT. You don't like the 2 options we gave you, then you could just eat shit and everything stays the same. But I do want to address something. Everyone here is correct in identifying the problem with immigrants coming into the city. But here's the thing. Why do they bring the immigrants in? It's true. They give nothing to the people who they're immiserating here. They cast them off, and now they're inviting a whole group of people. Why? Is it because they love immigrants?
No.
Is it because this country loves Hispanic and Latino immigrants? No, we see how they're treated here. They bring them in to exploit them as cheap labor to keep this city functioning.
And to keep them in their voter seats.
And to keep them in the voter seats. I absolutely agree. So there's two things
And
here.
the thing is, they're asking us to open their home to immigrants. You didn't hear that in the news?
Yeah.
They're
But
asking. No.
this is the same government that is ruining Latin America, that is exploiting the rest of the world, causing people to come here, rushing to safety, rushing to wealth. And what do? We throw them into the meat grinder that is the food packaging plants,
Mayor Adams
that
needs
is
to
the
go.
restaurants, that are hotels,
Yes.
just to keep the rich wealthy and afloat. They do the same thing to the people living here.
Yes.
That in order to keep the wealthy rich and comfortable, everyone here needs to be displaced, uprooted, and cast off to make way for the comfy, the comforts of the wealthy here.
Yes.
They're fixing the apartment. They're fixing the apartment that they ain't fixed in a while. They're fixing it up. For what? So they can put immigrants.
But we need to point the guns in the right direction. The problem is not the immigrants. The problem is a city government and a federal government that does not care about the people here. Black people, Latino people, and other oppressed nationalities that come here looking for the American dream only to find the American nightmare. That's what it is. And so,
And residents, if you don't believe it, any of you can walk around and look up at, there's too many empty apartments in this, just in this area alone. Why? Why? They already have a head start on what they think they're gonna get away with. But if you say no, they won't be able to get away with not even the empty apartments. So remember what I'm saying. Say no to the trust pact. Remember this. Period.
They're sending somebody from HUD to go to apartment to convince them to do it.
Yes, people are already getting knocks on their doors from HUD, trying to convince them to convert. Do not do it. It will not benefit you. You think it will? It might benefit you and kick out 6 of your neighbors or the rest of the building. It's not worth it at all. The same energy that HUD is taking to go around and steal from us, they should be taking that energy and go around and asking why we still have dirty water, why you still have peeling paint, why you still have lead, rust, mold, why haven't you had gas in 6 months? Those are the questions that HUD should be asking, not trying to steal. Stop trying to steal from the poor. We already have our heads above water, barely. Stop trying to drown us. Stop it. Thank you, baby.
yo, Joe.
Which one?
Again, everybody, if you're just tuning in, we're at the Jacob Riis Houses in
So I
the
think
Lower
we're
East Side
getting at a
of
lot of
Manhattan.
issues today.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we want to circle back to what's going on with the soil. So we're going to have Joel, an environmental lawyer who's been doing independent stuff out here, testing, to speak to the situation.
There we go. That's what we want. We want an expertise. An expertise. That's what it is.
So that's another.
Greetings.
Reading.
Joel Kupferman, Environmental Justice Initiative, National Lawyers Guild, Environmental Justice Committee, and a frequent visitor to Lower Manhattan. And I just want to say what I've heard today affirms what we heard before. Right here is a classic case of environmental racism at its worst. We're talking about construction that's going on that's federally funded, okay? Partly based on the fact that the East River came up and flooded this area. So besides all the bad toxins that were in the soil here before, from what existed here before, from the Con Ed plant and elsewhere, the East River is not exactly the cleanest body of water that you want to do. So we had all of that stuff that mixed all this stuff, so it became the perfect storm that's here. We got involved to come to the press conference when Congressperson and the state assemblyman and other people were talking to basically try to find information, and not just saying there's no problem. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I couldn't get into the press conference, but I did walk across, and what I did see was horrifying to an environmental attorney and an environmental expert. They had a little sign that said, "We're putting down pesticides," okay? But they didn't say what pesticide was being used. By law and by health standards, people should know what's there. So not only is it dangerous that we have a pesticide we don't know, they're putting it down on loose soil. So that loose soil is just going up, and that pesticides are being ingested. We saw children playing in that soil.
Yes.
So what we did is we came back and we grabbed some samples, all right? And our big testing, based on this $28 million or more contract, we spent a big $200, and we collected samples close to the surface, and we found 13.9 parts per million of arsenic. This arsenic is bad news that everyone knows, okay? Causes a lot of problems. There's 2 people who've died here that was mentioned with high arsenic. It might not have been directly linked, but it definitely sends up red flag after red flag after red flag. Okay? That's 13.9 samples. Moreover, they question our sampling techniques or whatever. We've been doing this for a long, long time, so they can question it. But the question is, why? Where is the city and where is NYCHA testing their own soils? They're not doing that. But we do know that there's a brownfield site that's in the northern part of the site. That's an old coal gasification plant. The utilities would gasify coal, and we know each of those sites left a residue of really, really bad whole list of chemicals, including SVOCs and VOCs, that are there. It's called a brownfield site for a reason. It's toxic. Those records show 56 parts per million of arsenic, which is way up. But moreover, when we brought us to the state, they kept on arguing, are people being exposed or not being exposed? And we're like, wait a second. The soil is here. Kids are playing in the soil. The winds are blowing. It's going into people's apartments. And they also refuse to test inside people's apartments. Okay? But we do know is that when they do construction, they also, the way to stop it is they wet it. Okay? That's when they use bad measurements and they find it exceeds. But we also know, and we can see here, when they do that, the water goes onto the ground and people walk in with that arsenic and that lead right into their apartments. So people are getting hit over and over again. And it's in EPA circles and even DEC, they call it cumulative impact. It's not just one hit, one time you walk by a site. It's month after month, year after year, that these people are subjected to this. What upsets me most as an environmental lawyer, that this is federal funds and state funds, and people are walking out with big bucks and also supervising. The supervisors, the construction managers that are dealing with this are getting millions of dollars. So our test with $200 for the soil, and we asked right away, wasn't an expensive fix. They cover up the soil. They cover it up with either grass or seed or something called geotextile, which is basically burlap. They didn't do that. They said they were going to do that. 2 months later, we came back with the federal monitor, and we were surprised that there's piles. The piles weren't as high as the 6-foot piles before, but they were there. And as the workers were moving some of the equipment that's federally funded on the grounds that they're helping everyone here, they were disturbing that soil. So that soil was definitely going up and over. So similar to the test that we're doing here, we do air monitoring tests. This monitor costs a big $300. This is much more accurate than what DEC does on their brownfield sites. What they're going to give us is a big monitor that they change depending on which wind direction is blowing. And they also, with every case that we've dealt with, we're dealing with a case in Lower Manhattan, which is near the World Trade Center. The soil from the construction site is going into people's apartments that are World Trade Center survivors, cancer survivors. So just a little bit of dust is going to send them off into the bad, the really bad zone. What's also upsetting is that DEC and the city allowed construction to take place at that site on June 7th, the worst day in the world that New York was, and everyone in the city says they can't stop it. So now, how should we believe NYCHA and DEC that if there's a small exceedance, they're going to stop it? They don't. So part of the experience that they have, there's a lot of lawyers on the other side to defend them. I trust the people here, I trust their eyes and their noses that they know there's a problem. So it's really amazing that not that with the health department, I just mentioned, isn't the best people, but we want them to come in and help, including the state health department and the city health department. Okay? When people call up now, the 311, trying to reach the health department, with they're mandated to help all the residents of New York City, they're told, we're sorry, we can't help you, you have to call NYCHA or transfer you over to NYCHA. All right? That is totally unequal treatment under the law. It's a classic constitutional case. We have constitutional programs here that basically saying that all these residents here don't get the protection, forget the state and the feds, of the New York City government that's there. All right? We have problems. And also, one of the doctors from the, one of the residents who passed came in from Mount Sinai, a highly recognized place, and said, we want testing. All right? And sometimes I speak in metaphors or anecdotes that I know is that when I cut myself once to go to the doctor wants to give you 20, 30 types of tests to boost up the insurance. So here we have two people who have passed. The doctor, who's a nephrologist, who's an expert in kidneys, whatever, says you should test the other people here. The city refused to test, and so did NYCHA, and they issue a statement from the city health department with the convenience of the state health department saying the #1 cause of arsenic poisoning is eating seafood. So here we have the city health department blaming seafood consumption, and then on the other brownfield sites, they're blaming all the Canadian air as causing the problem, not the construction that's going on.
Like we're stupid.
Exactly. That's what they're doing.
So, as a lawyer, is a combination of, in some ways, we don't even know where to begin, but we also have a NYCHA government that definitely refuses to admit. We've worked with the lawyers in Flint. I've spoken to them. We've helped them. We exchanged papers and the California Air people. And in Flint, they eventually got the governor, the ex-governor, and other people on the grounds that you can't get away with just saying, I don't know, because I'm not tested. So one of the charges that I think that we really have to give to the city and to NYCHA is the refusals to test. The refusals to test inside people's apartments about the dust that's coming in. We do know that there's lead, okay, that's there, and they're not even doing a good job. One of the residents that lives here, who was moved because her daughter had lead, she just found out that her new apartment that she moved into has lead, so she's being removed. All right. When she called up 311, they switched to NYCHA, and she asked, "What are you doing to protect us? You know, I have a lead case, and I see the dust and the dirt coming from here, and all of this." And NYCHA said nothing. They're doing nothing. So besides trying to hide and even giving us excuses, they've reached the point where they're not doing it. And it's critical health, and being totally familiar with 9/11, a lot of this that's going to happen in the next month, a few months, is definitely preventable. All right, you stop it by stopping the exposure, not putting all the money into treatment. So that's.
Thank you. Thank you for clearing it up.
I still be buying my water.
Any questions?
I watch it.
He said what we already know.
Yeah, but we want, that's a better.
Thank you.
So people, I just have a question.
Yes.
How come there's not like 50 or 90 people out here? How come we only have like 20 people out here or 30 people? There's like 900 people that live here in just the 4 or 5 buildings. They should all be out here. Also, how could Mayor Adams come and just say on the news that the water's fine to drink when we already know that the water haven't been fine to date? Think about that for a second. Like I said, if you go on YouTube and you Google Mayor Adams Riis Houses, you're going to find out the truth, because they fell apart in their own lives. I've been searching the web for different stories on what they've been talking about, and everything that they've been saying is a total lie. Everything. The DEC, Rodney Rivera, Dan Green, Harvey Epstein, Dan Goldman, all of them are just talking, but no one has ever even shown up. I found a flyer on my building the other day. It said there was a meeting on the 11th, and Dan Green and Dan Goldman and Harvey Epstein said they were going to be there. So I happened to show up at the meeting. You know who was there? Nobody. Nobody. And that's the second time they called a meeting and made flyers for the tenants, and they're no-show. So you already know what's going on here. We just need more people to come out and talk about this, because I'm not making this stuff up. At first I thought I was going crazy. Now I realize there's so many people that's sick. 3 weeks after my son passed away, there was a lady named Miss Bonet. She passed away from 4 times the legal limit of arsenic in her system, and you could check the records with Mount Sinai. It was in the news. You could read thecity.com. There's a lot of story and articles on everything going on here. Please do your homework. Please say no to everything they come and knock on your door. Matter of fact, don't even answer the door. Don't answer your door, because it's not going to be pleasant. It's not going to be pleasant. We need to all band together. People need to come forward, and we need to have a more strength in unity, because right now greed is winning. Greed is winning, but you know what? They have these people standing here around me, and we stopping the greed. We stopping the people.
Fight for your right.
You want to fight?
Give it to him, Judy.
How you make it work?
Just like I wanted to hold the piece, but you just pulled the
This is ridiculous. But when they was giving out,
We need more of you people to come on out here. We need you to come on out here and fight for your rights. Because we out here fighting for ours. We need strength. We come in a group, the strength is increased. Come on out here and fight for your rights out here. Stop sitting up in the house thinking everything gonna be okay. They're gonna put us out in the streets if you don't do it. The same way you guys flooded management to get that measly $200, the same way it was so crowded they needed to hire police because everybody was bombarding the office for $200 measly. That's the same way you guys should be out here protecting your apartments. We are not out here for our health. I'm disabled. I'm on a cane and a brace wrist. I cannot do this, and I do it every time because this is serious. While we are sleeping, they are planning. And when we wake up, the shock is so unbelievable because nobody's out here. Stop it. The same way you sit on your bench and talk about your neighbor is nature. Your neighbor is hard. Talk about them. Talk against them. The environmental health people. Come together. This is enough. I've been doing this since the beginning. And the groups should be larger than this. This is serious. They are trying to remove us. And they will if we don't come together. Period. Enough is enough. When will it be enough? You think it won't happen to you, and it will. As soon as you think it's not you, it's you. And then you're going to say, I should have been outside. Yeah, you should have been. Because this is truth. This is not fake news. People's doors have been knocked on. People are living with what they are living with. We don't have to make nothing up. None of us is getting paid to do nothing we are doing. It is so true. And anybody in any of these apartments got at least one thing that is wrong. And that's one thing too many for the rent that was being paid. It's funny how they can't answer tickets, but they raised that rent real quick.
have him come and fix my lead problem in my house. And I have a son that's living with lead. And management says, oh, we have to reach out to contractors. You know what that means? Contractors are private people. It's already started, ladies and gentlemen. Back in the day, you put in a ticket, housing workers came. Now people gotta call people, gotta call people, gotta call people. That means the plan is already in effect. The next step is your home. You don't believe me? When it happens, remember my voice.
Let me give this in Spanish. All right, we need somebody in Spanish. Or do it in Spanish, everybody.
Do it in Spanish. I mean, a lot of there's not a lot of English. So.
Wait, you got it on?
So you just hold it down.
Hold it down. Okay. All right. Okay, gente. Mira, protege tus apartamentos. Tienen que estar aquí abajo para protestar. Porque ellos quieren sacarlo a todos los otros. Para meterlos ricos. Para dejarlo en la calle. Protege su familia. Protege su sitio. Bajen. Están en su casa viendo televisión, novela. Bajen para aquí abajo. En vez de estar en la casa haciendo nada, baje para protestar contra Laisha, contra Housing, porque ellos lo quieren sacar a los otros. Y si tocan en su puerta, por protestar cualquier cosa, dile que no para todo. Porque ellos lo que quieren es sacar a los otros. So baja, mi gente, baja para protegerlos ustedes. Porque los otros pueden hablar cada uno para cada cosa. Los otros, yo hablo por mí, yo protejo por mí, tú tienes que bajar y ser presente. Presente para que no lo saquen los otros de aquí. Cuando lo saquen ustedes, pues entonces vamos a ver. ¿Ok? So vamos, arranca, protege.
Awesome. That was awesome.
But you gotta come down here and be present. You're out there watching soap operas and shit. Get your hands up. That's it. I was on the phone. That's it. Oh shit.
The observation that as private contractors are hurting us is totally true. There are 22 there's cooling centers that the city is paying very big dollars for that we need. We have the hottest days that are going on. Of those cooling centers, 22% in senior citizen centers are not wheelchair accessible. 16% overall. The city has been paying people, private landlords, big bucks for buildings that can't allow everybody in. So we should really question from the beginning, the private fix is not any of the fixes that we're looking for.
Thank you.
And one more thing on the law side is New York State passed the Green Amendment. They added to the New York State Constitution that everyone, including NYCHA residents, have a right to clean air, clean water, and a clean environment. So what they're giving us now, what NYCHA's doing, is a constitutional infringement upon everyone's rights.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, yes. Nothing about water. I don't trust it.
So, out of everyone here, who's heard of rogue residents?
We are rogue residents.
We are wrong.
We are them.
I know there's a cry for unity right now, and it's correct. Like, we should be waking up everyone in Jacob Riis to get out here, because this affects everyone here. It affects the 400,000 people living in public housing across the city. Everyone has their heads down, because everyone's getting squeezed out. Things are getting more and more expensive. There's no stop to this immiseration to the poor people in the city in sight. And the city, the real estate companies, other politicians who come by saying they'll do things, even nonprofits, are doing the bare minimum, saying words as opposed to taking action. And that goes to show who the system is designed for. It's not designed for the oppressed peoples. It's not designed for poor people living through this for decades. And so right now, who do we rely on? Do we rely on the politicians who have been doing nothing but making promise after promise and landing on nothing, following through on nothing?
No.
No.
Do we rely on the management office?
No. 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 No.
Do we rely on the other nonprofits like Goals?
No. No.
Hell no. we have to rely on each other.
Absolutely.
We have to rely on the
One
people
another here,
subjected
everybody.
to this in the
Come
first
over,
place.
Come down, let's unite.
And so, we've been doing this month after month since the arsenic crisis down here. Getting residents together, calling people, having arguments, yelling in each other's faces, and it's not been pleasant. It's not been peaceful, it's not been cordial, but everyone's tired. Everyone's tight because this city government is doing nothing. And the people here, people on fixed income, people on Social Security, people in canes and walkers are the one coming out and fighting the system. There's a building, on Avenue D, Building 90, where Dare Struggle, Rogue residents, we came together with people to make demands over the rampant repair issues, crumbling walls, water damage, and a resident who had no accommodations for her disability in her apartment. And what we did was we got together, we made demands, and we shook up the management office. And now, did they answer our demands? No, they hid in the back and they called the cops on people who live here.
Exactly.
They called the cops on people trying to get repairs and decency for the people that they live with.
And they are. That's the thing, cowards.
However, what have we been doing after that? We shut down city meetings to get the truth out of the politicians. Rogue residents shook Rodney Rivera, shook Dan Green by the ankles to get the truth out of it. And they shown themselves when they don't come by, when they don't come out and answer demands. So we've had to email, we've had to go through other channels to get this proof to them that Dare to Struggle and Rogue residents has been collecting, going door to door, taking surveys with people. All the photos that you see around you on the NYC's The Biggest Slumlord posters, those are real people's apartments falling apart as we speak. And they've normalized it to the point where your neighbors, people who you know for years, you'll knock on their door saying, hey, do you have any problems? And they'll say no. Meanwhile, their walls are falling apart. They say they don't have a problem because they know this is the status quo here. Now, the real estate companies in NYCHA and the city will say, no, that's why we need privatization. But really what it is they're dangling over people's heads the prospect of dignity if we give in to their plans, if we give in to their tricks and their schemes. They're poisoning people to get them out. So this is serious. And the only thing that's going to stand in the way of this public health catastrophe is mobilizing as many people here in the projects as possible to take this on. Because when they want people out and they don't leave, they'll be sending the NYPD. They'll be sending other political forces to get people out. And we're saying we can stop that in its tracks. We can come together. We can fight this where they're at, whether it's the management office to get people some repairs here, whether it's 250 Broadway to shut down their privatization schemes, whether it's City Hall. But we have to start here together. There are steps that we can take right now. Everybody here, there are flyers here that were made by Dare to Struggle and Rogue residents Jacob Riis. Put these up on your door. Put these up in your hallways. Tell people about the plans that this city government has for the people living here. Because at the end of the day, our greatest weapon is exposing how people are living here. They can't lie and say this isn't happening. When you can knock on your neighbor's door, you can go to your crib, you can go to your friend's crib in Queensbridge, you can go to your friend's crib in Ravenswood, Woodside, Campos. It doesn't matter. All of these public housing developments are going through the same conditions. And it's because this city government and this system sees people living here as disposable. They will offshore jobs if they don't need the workers there. And in the same respect, they will uproot people here if it makes way for more wealthy people to come in. And we're saying we can stop that in its tracks. If you want to join Rogue residents, if you want to start fighting this together, leave your name with us. Sign up. You leave your name, we'll get in contact. We have meetings bi-weekly to strategize on how to stop this. There's kids living here. Just now a resident was saying that the environmental lawyer should go test near the Henry Street settlement.
Yes.
Test near the BGR.
Yes.
Because children are coming out with higher levels of asthma, getting lead and arsenic detected in their health screenings. If we want to stop this, we leave. Oh, you trying to see people trying to sign up right now? Hold on.
Listen, let me get this. Let me see what you doing now.
I got you.
I just want to say once again how serious it really is, this privatization that they're really trying to do to us. Please take some flyers. We already know how housing works, so we got to work better than them. Don't put nothing in the lobby. Tell it to your neighbor. You could even stick it on your door because that's your private property. You can't put nothing, they can't take nothing off your door. But stick it under your door, neighbors' doors, put it on their door knockers, nothing in the lobby. The same way they can be slick, so can we. We need to let everybody know how serious this is. Within earshot, everywhere. I don't care who you know. If you go into the supermarket to buy some milk, go, girl, did you hear about this? Sweetie, did you hear about that? Everybody's ears who are open to listen, talk about it. Because this will move swiftly. Before we know it, it will be done. Because of the way they have it designed. The way they have it designed. They have it designed where the head of household does not have to be the one to make the decision. That is scary. My son is 20 years old. He will say yes to housing. I had to have the talk with him. Don't accept anything from them and say, don't even answer the door. From old school, if mommy's not home, don't answer the door.
My mommy not home.
Period. They are really trying to displace us. And we will have nowhere to go. We already know how the shelter systems are. Who wants to go there? Who wants to bring their children there? And honestly, they don't even have room for us. So honestly, where would we go if this really, really happened? We have to think about that. We don't have family like that up here where we can go live with somebody. Where are we going? Like, this is really serious. Like, this is choking me up because it's so desperately serious. While they are sleeping, they are planning. Remember that. They don't just wake up in the morning at 8 o'clock and say, oh, we're going to go privatize these apartments. They've been talked about this. It's just trickled down to us just now. So now that we know, we got to act like them. Talk about it, be about it, and do something about it. Say no. That's it. And don't be scared of them. Because a lot of people don't do anything because they are scared that housing will retaliate. They can't do anything to you. They can't do nothing to you. I'm standing out here right in front of them with the horn, telling everybody housing can't do nothing to you. And you have rights. You have rights as a tenant. Oh, they come out the back. They went out the back. Because the little short fat one warned them. She warned them. The vice president. She went in there, she warned them, and they left from the back.
All right, guys. So they're wrapping up here at this protest, but I'm gonna pull Joel aside. He's the environmental lawyer. Him and I met a couple of months ago at one of the DEC, one of their meetings over here about the contaminated soil. So we're going to talk about that and a little bit about his work and why he got involved with this. But in the meantime, like I said, if you're not a member of Status Coup, please sign up. Go to StatusCoup.com/join. Only $5 to $10 a month. Also, please share and like this stream. We'll be cutting up some, I know Colin's going to be cutting up some clips here.
Everyone, if you want to help out, If you want to continue to expose this, start fighting it,
Hold on 1 second.
Yes, he was like, oh, the water's good now.
take some flyers, leave it up on your door. And they can't take it. You know, if you take it up on your door, they can't just come by and take it down.
How are you?
Put it up on your door.
So I
you've
just
been
wanted to
successful.
know we're
Meeting.
live on YouTube.
Come out.
Okay.
We'll strategize a plan.
Sure. Just take a step back. I'll have you right there.
Thank you.
So, once again, just introduce yourself to
Sure.
the audience.
Joel Kupferman, environmental justice attorney. Been doing this for a few decades, a long time. I'm with the Environmental Justice Initiative, formerly known as the New York Environmental Law and Justice Project, and the National Lawyers Guild Environmental Justice Committee. So,
What's some of the work? I know last time we spoke, you did mention about Flint, Michigan. You were working on
Flint, Michigan, Hurricane Katrina, water that came up, people got trapped. And one thing we also learned from Katrina, being in touch, and there's a lot of science, but after a while, you can't help but see that. The most obvious cases, they have arsenic in Louisiana, and they thought when there's a flood that it actually tries to dilute. This whole thing, one way to get rid of pollution is you dilute, all right?
That's not...
So what happened, they did studies that the arsenic, clusters, in some cases became worse after the storm. They tested. So we just have a fear, and people use the word perfect storm, and that's what we have here. We have the East River that came up. Contractors are getting big bucks to fix this. Contractors that oversee other contractors that are not stopping, can't even cover the soil for like 1/100th of what they're getting paid to do. So we have this concern that it's this perfect storm, that we have the soils. We tested the soils. We came up with 13.9 parts per million in the arsenic, and that was on the top. And a lot of times the testing is done below the surface, below where the grass is. This is up thing. Those piles are up right below the windows. Okay, we came back a month ago with the federal monitor, and lo and behold, there was smaller piles, but piles nonetheless. And when the contractors started moving some of the equipment, their fences, we saw a little bit of a dust pile going up. Their work is definitely disturbing the soil.
So if it's that bad on top of the soil, it's probably even worse underneath, right? Correct.
And right, we keep on mentioning arsenic, that's there. And we get into arguments with the state health department, even over which levels are safe. And we use their sheets, and it's 13 parts per million for unrestricted use. But on the same sheet, they had health standards that go down to 1.1 and 0.1 for cancer cases. We definitely know we have cancer people, living here. So it's just bad. But also, it's not just that one figure; it's how people are exposed to it. So the wind itself is helping. People walking through it, is really helping.
Yeah.
So the state health department, they try to discount the arsenic, and I think after a while it became a little apologetic. And then he said, Joel, and this is me speaking, it's one-sided, but people should check this out. He said, it's not just the arsenic, it's the lead. And the reason why NYCH is under federal control is that they got caught lying about lead testing. So here we have high levels of lead in the soil.
In the soil.
In the soil.
And in the water, too.
In the water, but also in the soil. And when the fix is, we have a brownfield site, more than 4 buildings, and that's DEC. And we've heard them give their talk saying no problem. They didn't even mention one figure. We had a fight to get figures. So all this 1,000-page, pages is just discounted, and they basically told the public and myself, don't worry, we know what we're doing. It's doing this for years that you get, I call it healthy skepticism. You see what's happening at other sites. We're dealing with a site now, 111 Washington Street, that's a brownfield site, that's 3 blocks away from the World Trade Center. The people living next door are using one of our monitors that measures better than the monitors. Here's the monitor. This goes down to 0.1 parts per million. 0.1 micrograms. That's the smaller the particle, the more insidious it is. The larger ones gets blocked by your nose, that's 10. 2.5 goes a little further into the lungs, and 0.1 goes even further, right into your stomach. So we're getting high measurements at that brownfield site. The state refuses to go into the building, saying it's not their jurisdiction. The state health department refuses to go in, and they have a mandate for everyone's health, especially the people living next door. We said they mistrust our monitors. We said, why don't you do your monitors? And then they said, well, it might pick up stuff that's not coming from the site. We said, you're still responsible for that. And the health department official or officer said, well, there might be other things in there, including cosmetics. And we said, cosmetics? You mean just because someone has cosmetics in their place and dust is coming in, the contract is completely absolved? And in that brownfield site, which goes this worry for here, which would happen in all the city places, is that they didn't stop on June 7th. Was the worst dust day, the worst air day in New York City. June 7th. That's the day that New York City was considered to be the worst in the world. Not just the U.S. They allowed construction to continue on that day that was generating dust at that site there, but also we know all over the city there's other construction that was allowed, and the city didn't even advise their transportation department. There's something called milling, where there's a roadway and they chop off the top surface. They did milling that day, we understand. That you should never almost do, like most of the time, they did it on the worst air day. So it's bad enough to hear about private. We're concerned that the city of New York and the mayor is allowing this to happen. Is allowing this to happen.
They're not testing.
They're not testing, but also
because they don't want to be held accountable for what
they want to be held accountable. They're not testing, but also the scary part is when we test, we know it's high. But it's these are controls, and a lot of the controls, we're not talking about expensive. To cover the soil is like 0.00001% of the whole budget that they're spending on this. That's federally funded. They're not, they're not doing it.
So what's the proper way? Because I know, do you remember the meeting that we met at over here? Who was that with? The DEC?
That was DEC.
And there were
Dan Green. There was people there from.
So can you? For the
oh, sure. So the best way to do it is when you're dealing with something called resuspension of the soil. It's loose soil. So when you uncover the soil, you cover it up. There's different ways of covering it up. There's even something called geotextile, which is basically fine burlap. You roll it out, or if it's for a period for a while, there's even wild seeds. New York City has a Parks Department center in Staten Island that has perfected almost like quick seeding that people could do. So there's so much that's easy to do, that's in the contract, that's in the law, and sometimes there's even some of the laws are more protective of the environment than public health. We're also claiming that these are violations of stormwater management rules, because the state is full aware that when there's runoff, it goes into water bodies, not just into people's mouths and the like, into water bodies, so that stuff has to be covered. We've complained, and DEC's basically said, no, their hands are up. So there's definitely ways of controlling it. Part of the problem also is when there's an exceedance, okay, they leave it up to the hired environmental engineer to give notice that there's an exceedance, so it takes a while for us to find that out, and they usually correct it too soon. They add water, they call dust suppression, to water. But we've seen in many brownfield sites and places like this that they just put the water on haphazardly, the water goes into the path, and kids and people are walking through that path into their buildings, carrying that in. And that, what I said before, it's not just arsenic, it's lead. So we have this all these buildings under federal control because of lead, and now we have lead coming in that they're even just denying it,
And what does arsenic and lead do to the body, and how long will
arsenic is cancerous because it causes neurotoxicity, affects the heart. It's like a whole list of and lead. There's very little way of basically purging it, and the same thing with lead. It's basically permanent damage. So that's the whole problem. Also, is that it's a public health problem. And it's not. It's a public law problem. Everyone's riding the subways, and they see signs that say, "We got someone $1 million for lead poisoning, $2 million." Those are individual cases. They're not really preventing other cases that are out there, except for that fine. And a lot of times, the people sign gag orders. So I get hurt, I sue, and the bad guy comes and says to my lawyer, if you sign something and don't tell your neighbor, then we'll make this agreement. So it doesn't stop. It's just basically to quiet, people out of there. So that's why there's this whole myth of the private world's going to save everybody, because people hear this stuff, and it's a public law problem that the city, the state, and the feds have to step in. And especially, I keep on mentioning that it's federally funded, that FEMA and the White House have a lot to do with it. They passed a lot of laws. Environmental justice is banned it all over. The controllers saying all of this stuff. We call it aspiration. They just want to put their name on it. Part of the problem is enforcement, and also part of it is when we get DEP to come in, Department of Environmental Protection. They have an Air Enforcement Bureau. They only give a fine, a small fine. And how do we know it's a small fine? It doesn't change people's behavior. The City of New York, as the last independent budget officer's report, is owed $2 billion in uncollected fines. So not only are these bad contractors getting $20 million or more for the contract, they're getting hit with fines, and they're not even paying the fine, all right? So to me, in law, it's really hard. Environmental justice movement had a setback over a case called Sandoval that you had to prove intent, that someone's bad intent is doing it, and it's usually in a court of law, it's really hard. We're saying there's a sign of intent that they're not paying a $300 fine. They have no intent of even respecting the law, the court, or the people that they're hurting. So it's back to that perfect storm. It's like case after case. And as we said at this rally, that people should also trust their nose and their mouth, what they taste or what they see, more than NYCHA reports saying that there's no problem with DEC reports. As to the arsenic, they came back, City Health Department, with backing of the State Health Department, and they said, it's not coming from the water. They didn't even mention the soil, okay? They said that the number one cause, which could be, but not here, is the eating of shellfish. So they blamed shrimp cocktails basically for causing these people's problems. And they said this in front of the piles of soil. So we believe, and we charge the city of NYCHA with going beyond the guilt of omission, to George and Flint, is commission. For them to tell people they have no worry about arsenic is completely false.
Have you been able to test the water yourself?
We haven't tested the water. We're trying to get other people to test the water, but we've showed it to a lot of our scientists, and it's not rigorous full testing. We believe there's problems with possibly Legionnaires, with bacteria, and the city comes back citing their fix on how they see things as a public health problem or not, and they're saying there's no problem. We went through this with St. Nick's, and part of our skepticism comes from other cases. We had outbreaks of Legionnaires up there. It was in 3 different buildings, and they said, it doesn't follow our paradigm, so we're not going to do any more testing. We're going to discount it. Every scientist that we showed it to said it's even more concerned that it's from 3 different buildings, and not only that, the water tanks here, and they keep on saying it's city water, the water tanks have been contaminated and treated. They found rats in buildings. We've also found, and my interns have witnessed, NYCHA inspectors going out and realized that the inspection reports were falsified, that the whole tank was about to come down. They said it's in perfect condition. So it's a disaster, is right.
It is. Wow. So, would you recommend people go get tested,
Yeah, we want also with demanding that we also, for testing, people should go, but also we want to make it a public health problem, public health solution. So it's Bellevue, the city and the state have a network of occupational environmental clinics. We've been demanding that the city health department send someone here, a nurse or a doctor, and do urine tests. It's not even blood tests. So there's ways of doing it. We've gone to conferences at Columbia School, Mailman School. There's different isotopes of arsenic, organic and inorganic. So a little bit of a few dollar test could tell us where it's coming from. So just like basic science, high school science almost, we could figure out where it's coming from, and they all refuse, to do it. So we really recommend that people see, but they should also go to Bellevue or Governor's Hospital. They should try to find a public health thing, and we're pushing for the New York City and New York State to have to have someone come here. We have problems with accessibility. A lot of people in wheelchairs, and part of our work is the heat. So besides the bad air, we have some of the hottest days, and we just discovered that a number of the cooling centers that the city runs and pays big dollars for are not accessible to wheelchairs. So someone's got to ask, why are they signing this the lease, and why are they paying these people big bucks every month and allowing this to happen? I hope that was good.
Anything else?
No, I think that's. Oh, and I just also the final thing. So much faith in the law is that New York State passed a constitutional amendment called the Green Amendment that guarantees all the residents, including NYCHA residents, the right to clean air, clean water, and a clean environment. So now it's a constitutional bit, and that this was knowing that all these agencies were hiding behind 13.9 versus 13 and all of that. It's like, nope. It's not up to these people to prove it. It's up to the government, these agencies, to show why they shouldn't be in there. So they flipped, and they're basically now it's a constitutional infraction. And let alone, not just state, but federal, is that there's definitely unequal protection. That when all these residents are calling up 311, they're not getting through to the health department or DEP or buildings department, which they should. Every other resident gets that protection, limited or whatever, or albeit. But they just get switched to NYCHA. So it's basically telling, call your bad landlord, call the guy who stole your car to evaluate whether your car was stolen or not. All right, so it's left and right, and also they're told, at meetings, and I've been told after meetings, that we don't want to talk to these residents because they're rude, right? Because they raise their voice. So it's just, that's another way of pointing people. Why? Supposedly there's an agreement, which we're upset with the city and NYCHA. So we want to question, or even city council members, who made that agreement. We're trying to make a thing. Thank you. We're trying to reach even Alexa Vilas, who's been good. Why? This is one of the things that you should be checking out. Everyone, to me, they had a recent round of lead laws, and we call it aspirational. You ask for a law for this pole, he asks for a law for something else. They get their name on something, and they don't care about enforcement, they just walk away. The controller's been doing his meetings, they just don't enforce it. They do a public press release. Why?
We are in America, why?
Well, maybe that's the problem, that we're in America, that there's a faith that it works, but also there's a whole faith that the free marketplace is going to take care of us, and they're not. Yeah, this contract is making. It's also here. The fix isn't that expensive. I can understand. I come from a small business world, come from small government world, or whatever. It makes a big difference if the fix was $1 million per apartment. We're talking about inexpensive stuff that's in the contract. So to me, that's like the triple insult. They won't even do that. And there's also federal funds involved. They want to plant $1 billion worth of trees. Those trees could be planted here, at Baruch and other NYCHA houses. They don't want to know. And the worst thing is, it's also federal money that's under these contracts saying there's resiliency that's hurting. So that's the best.
From an environmental.
I'm gonna go. Yes, we'll talk. Would you like to say anything after this?
And I bet you it was because of drinking the bathroom water.
That's the thing. They're not going to dig up all this dirt.
I love you. I'm going to go sit down and do this.
Come back, all right?
All right.
They're not going to do it responsibly. So for the people who have been sick.
All right, guys, if you're still here, I'm going to speak to another couple, Michael and Alicia. Their son, Gavin, passed away back in September. Let me just check the chat here, see how many people we got in here. Hope you guys like what Joel had to say. He's a really good guy. I wanted to ask him how he got involved, but I'll talk to him again soon. All right, let me see if Michael and Alicia like to talk now.
Okay. See the line. He said they didn't be digging. They got 6 feet out of the fucking dirt behind us. They were just talking about the fucking water and wasn't talking about it. So
With the kids. And he got 6 feet tall.
So this is Jacob Riis Housing Development. Not sure how many buildings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 8 buildings. There might be more because there's like a playground and a couple more buildings in there. So after we speak to Michael and Alicia, I'm going to speak to Artie here, who is one of the organizers with Dare to Struggle. We'll talk a little bit about the work he's been doing and how he got involved.
Why can't Miss Roberta do that? Just let me get my nails and hair done before I get on TV. They can't even talk to me with no corporate talk. Don't bring it. They can. I told you okay, I'll email you. I'll give you all my information and I'll let you know when it's
What's up, man?
Just want to let you know we're live on you want to get some signs and we'll talk.
And when they held the meeting in the girls' club with the parking or whatever, and they were talking about we can undercut that. I said, my own shaking. I just oh my God. So you know what? So it's gonna be a long. And when you come from for the clean water, I just meal. Oh my God. Exactly. I'm sick of people. I'm sick of people. God did not design us to be like each other. And that's not right. I said, we can
Right there is fine.
This part of it. You want to get the other side? So get the other. Get the picture then. So you're going to ask me questions or you want me to
Just talk about what's been going on.
Okay, because this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
You're going to get water. You're going to wellness center.
Yeah, that's what's going to be it. That's what's going to be it.
All right, God bless.
Yeah. I need another person. Yeah.
Many questions, September 8th until now, no testing, water's still not good, we need answers.
Don't put me on screen. I'm on phone. I'm on my tablet.
This is my son.
I'm on my tablet.
When I say this is a picture of
There we
my
go.
son,
I got it. Good. Don't worry. You'll see my
put the
picture.
picture up when I say this is a picture of my son.
Can we
All
see
right, justice, right.
some of that water?
Oh, you want the water too, baby?
Yeah, you know what?
Give me.
No, I can hold both. Hold the bag.
Hold this side up.
Hold the bag.
Hold my bag.
Hold this side up.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. Go ahead. You got it?
This is the reason why.
Yes.
This
that's
is the reason
why.
So,
Yes.
before we get started, can you just explain when that water was from? When did you bottle that up?
This actual bottle is from January 26, 2023.
And how long has your water been like that?
I've personally been experiencing cloudy to this type of water since May of last year.
Hello, May 1st.
And I contacted management and their first response was, you're not the only one. What do you want me to do about it?
That's disgusting.
This is how they're treating us. This is how they're treating us. And while we were talking to you, they didn't even have the decency to leave through the front door. They left through the back door. And they were warned by the other people on the, so they don't even respect us to say, you know what, this is what's happening, we apologize, this is what they're doing. They sneak out the side while people are dying.
And they go home to,
and they go home to clean water. Right.
Definitely.
I actually took a Christmas basket down to 250 Broadway, and I said, from the Riis family to yours, if we can drink it, so can you.
That's right. Hello.
What's your name again?
Linda.
Linda, thank you. Alicia, Michael, if you want to just come up here. So, I know your story, but we're live on YouTube here. So just for the audience, introduce yourselves and explain what's been going on the past couple of months.
Well, my name is Michael. I live in Riis Houses for the past 9 years. I didn't live here my whole life, neither did my whole family, so I never really knew much about this. But my son was only 23 years old when he passed away from arsenic poisoning in the water, and he needed a double lung transplant at 23 years old. He was a professional skateboarder. And to this day, I'm holding this sign that says, still no testing from the time he passed away of last year till now. No one has came down to do any test or any kind of soil samples, and we know that it's all contaminated. There's a picture of my son right here. Many people knew him because he was a great skateboarder. He used to be skating all through Washington Square.
Nigel Houston at the skate league in New Jersey. His dad took him there. Everything he did was about skateboarding. He was healthy, athletic look since he was 3. Since he was 3, he was on a little tyke skateboard. And when he couldn't skate anymore because he was sick, he went to motorbikes. And that was
that's a pretty cool picture there.
2018, 19.
Yeah, it is about the Nigel and everything.
Yeah, look at him.
He was born on a
It's
skateboard.
about having a skateboard. I guess you would do a skateboard, right?
And
Actually got
what
it
the
from
doctors
my
tell you
brother inspired him.
getting this condition?
NYU, Langone, the pathologist, the autopsy doctors, the investigator that investigated the autopsy, none of them have any answers up to this point. We still haven't even got an investigative report on my son, and it's been almost a year in September. We really need answers from NYU. We just found out recently that they fired the investigator that was investigating the autopsy. So we don't know what's going on now. Now we have to deal with all new people. They keep shuffling around doctors. They're not letting nobody know what's going on. We know the water's still contaminated to this day, and the soil. And my son used to skate through here all day and night, skating and falling everywhere. So there must have been a lot of rat poison, a lot of construction, a lot of digging, exposure from the light rental machines running at 1,700 RPM.
For 6 years.
Diesel machines running on
With no
1,700
oversight.
RPM. With no oversight for 5-6
We
years.
called the president of Herc Rentals to tell him to remove them.
And then they finally removed them.
The black floor, that must be what my son's lungs look like.
They had it in front of the building.
Yeah, a couple
that's-
of them throughout the whole development.
And that's getting in the air and breathing it, and especially
And everybody here is getting sick. Little by little, they're getting everybody sick here.
80%
I
of the
start seeing more
population
people
in the
sick.
zip code has asthma. That's
Some
all
type
of
of
the
breathing
Yeah, because
And
when
since I
come
moved here,
from
that went up
breathing.
8%.
I wanna
And because
say,
of all the
I-
construction. Look behind me. Take a shot behind. Look at, you see all those pipes and everything? You think that's not deeper than 2 feet? All this construction that they're doing here, they had excavators, they had bulldozers, they had all this high performance equipment.
Then when I heard that,
And you actually told me that you told them to stop the work.
I told them the other day they were marking the streets. They were putting blue markings to break the ground. I told them you cannot break the ground here. This is contaminated. They disagreed with me. I stood there and told me they're going to have to arrest me. So I turned around, and when the investigator of the Federal Monitor came in and my lawyer, and they said they can't do the digging here, so I guess it was too much commotion, so they all left. And the whole convoy left that day. That was the 27th of June.
Now, I know you've done a few protests at 250 Broadway, right, which is the NYCHA,
Yes.
right
That's the
there, corporate
headquarters.
Yes.
offices. And you've gone to City Hall, right,
Yes.
to lead something for
I've
the mayor.
hanged up flyers all throughout City Hall and the city. I hanged up flyers throughout 250 Broadway, all in front of the building. They did take them down the next day, but however, I was back in the area the next day and I put them back up again.
That's it.
And we're just going to continue to fight for my son. He did not die in vain. He did not die of natural causes. He died from having arsenic or some kind of poison or carcinogen in his system.
And a lot of people think because their water comes out clear that it's clean. That's not true. This is Monday's water. It's a little shaken up, but it's clear. But if you look at it,
sediments and
you can
stuff.
see everything floating in there. But it ran clear.
it's not good.
Now imagine if I just drank this at face value. This is what people are taking showers with. And people don't know when you heat stuff like this up, you ingest it through the steam.
The inhalation part of it.
So
too.
either way, you're going to get it in your body.
Either way.
So housing really needs to be ashamed of themselves.
Whatever happened to justice?
I have 14
Whatever happened to the people?
He needs justice. He did not die in vain.
Whatever
He
happened
did
to right
not.
and wrong?
Right.
Where's accountability?
Enough is enough.
But yet they come, when they want the elections, they want us to vote for them. They come around saying, vote for me. No. We got to say, we got to stop voting. And if you want, do for us. See what you can do for us. And then we'll get our votes. Other than that, you ain't going to get our votes anymore. We're tired of being used.
And
oh,
it's
we're
a
going to do
sad-
this, we're going to do that. No.
And it's a sad feeling to know that somebody's trying to kill you for your apartment.
Yeah. Yep, the
It's a
politics and
really
everybody.
scary and
Like the
sad
end of
feeling
humanity.
Trying
to
to kill
know
you?
that
Trying to
somebody
kill
is
you?
deliberately trying to
Yeah.
kill you for your space.
It's a shame.
It's scary.
In so many different ways, and so blatantly aware that this is like a poison sector.
Yeah.
They try to
It wasn't
poison
like
everybody
this years
here.
ago. Because I lived back in the 70s. I lived in 809 with my siblings and my mother. And everything was fine. That water, I drank it, that water. Now, when I come back in 2013, I noticed that water wasn't any good, really. So I never drank it. I buy bottled water. But I would cook with it. I would do my coffee with it. After with the time, I ended up going to the bathroom. I would take a sip of my coffee. I would have to go. It ain't the sugar because it wasn't sugar. I was just something right. I did my pancakes. I did my oatmeal. I said, wait a minute. Then I heard back that they said they left me a message in NYC 718. Then my neighbor came and knocked on my door telling me, "Chef." I said, "What's up? Everything okay with you?" She goes, "Yeah." You know that our water's poison. I said, "What?"
The
And I still have the message.
The city messed up originally when they had the meeting in the school and they had the original testing and the water came back positive and they didn't tell us that. Then when they held the meeting, they want to tell us that they had the previous testing, but it came back negative, but now it's wrong. That was wrong. That was from a different company. Everything that's come from an agency's mouth to us has been a lie.
True lie.
A lie.
But
Like
yet,
the
I have the
lawyer,
message.
excuse me,
Yeah.
like the lawyer
Yeah.
said, he pulled out air quality testing kit, $300, not billions and millions. And if you did test the water, and let's say that was the case, that arsenic did show up, they still never told us.
Right.
My water looked like a cup of Alka-Seltzer. That's how it looked. That's how I knew something was wrong with my water.
Went back up.
Not them. And still, a year now into this, I'm still fighting. I'm spending money I don't have on water to bathe, to cook, to wash my dishes. Because I don't want this residue on anything. And I don't live alone. Most of us have children and other people in the house. I'm a poor lady. I cannot afford it.
I remember they were out here for just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and then the thing
handing
is,
out water and you know.
the water
Photo ops. Photo ops.
Yeah.
That's it.
Photo
That's
ops.
it. And you know what happened is, what gets me is, okay, one person alone, one pack of water, but when you have people that has 3 and 4 children, one box of water gonna do? Nothing.
This is my water from October 10th, 2022. This was a month after my son passed away.
And it's a shame
This is why
that
I'm
it's-
so concerned.
And it still looks the same as in 2023. Look at that. Look at that. That's ridiculous.
Now,
With the same
I
things
know
floating in it.
what's in this bottle of water is the same water that my son was drinking for months,
Or
maybe
bathing.
years.
Or bathing in.
Or however
But it didn't
long
look like
we
this.
know.
Brushing his teeth.
Yes,
We don't
washing
really
his
know.
face.
Clear.
We thinking something happened back in when Hurricane Sandy hit here and it contaminated everything. But then on top of that, they were doing so much construction. We believe somebody broke a water main break and released the arsenic into the water. But like I said, and I told Dan Green to test this water, and you know what he said? He told my neighbor here that she made it herself, that she did this to her water.
I have it on video.
So I called him the next day and I told him, she did that to her water, that means I did this to my water, and my other 30 people that have these same bottles of water, everybody got it from her.
And explain who's Dan Green?
Dan Green is just, he's for Healthy Homes of NYC.
Supposedly.
And he just got promoted. I don't even know for what, because as soon as he got promoted, he disappeared. He said he was going to help the people here. I had a neighbor here that needed water. I had a neighbor there that needed water, and she got hit by a car like 2 months ago. She can't walk. She got a messed up arm. She just had surgery. You know Daisy. So he told me that he was going to bring her water. And he never brought water. He never came by to see her. I gave him the address and everything.
Harvey
he gave me his
Epstein
number.
also said that. Harvey Epstein also
So
said he was going to deliver crates of water to the wellness center for Jacob Riis.
Some of them can't make
Harvey
it over here.
Epstein is he's supposed to be our congressperson who also got promoted. And it seemed like once the photo op was dead, everybody got promoted and forgot that we still had a problem.
Yeah.
And when the environmental people came down and held their fake meeting telling us that we get our water supply from the city, so that means Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, all of us should have the same water, right? So when I asked him that question, of course he had no answer, which means it's a lie. So if you have cracked pipes, Con Edison was told us that these pipes were built for us in the 1800s. That's how old they are, and they are cracked, and they wouldn't feed this water to their dogs.
Right.
Management was told this. If that's true, now you have old pipes cracked with contaminated dirt on top of them. What are you going to get, ladies and gentlemen?
Get in the water supply.
This is what you're going to get.
Poison water.
You don't have to go to school for this.
Right.
And I have 14 bottles of samples, and they all vary. All of them. From clear to the brown one that I just showed you.
Right.
I have my running water coming out. I have the video on my phone. It's coming out of the faucet black. After Dan Green said, I don't know what you did to that, I started to video my stuff. And I have a video of the water coming out literally at the bottle that I showed you. I can't doctor that, Dan Green. Mr. Epstein, NYC.
If you had, I'll get to you guys, but if you had one message for the mayor, what would it be?
You need to stop trying to be famous and take care of what needs to be taken care of, which is the American people, which is the New York City residents. We didn't vote you in so you can show up at parties and photo ops. There are people dying, you are well aware of it, and you need to stop it. That's what I have to say to the mayor.
Alicia? Mike, do you have a message from the mayor?
Please, just do the right thing. You already know what this is all about. I'm sure you've seen the stories. I'm sure we've been out in public, and I know you might be ignoring us, but I know we're still here. And guarantee you we're not going anywhere. We're going to keep on with this because there's too much lies and too much proof that something definitely did go wrong here. And that's what I want to say. Please come clean and tell the truth of what happened here.
Take accountability for the city.
Because we all know when you came here and drank that water, I'm not going to divulge privacy, but I know where you got, what apartment you went to, and that person's water is not like our water. She has a full filtration system that doesn't run from the faucet, it runs from the pipes. So that water, of course, is going to come out clean. And of course you drink that water. And I found it very odd that in this crowded area, nobody saw you come or leave. And that building was across from my building. So there's no way that you know or don't know what's going on.
Can't get sick from one glass of water.
Nope.
It's sad to be scared.
Yes.
It's sad, like, it's one thing to know that criminals are on the street and you might get robbed. But to know that you live in your apartment and somebody is actively trying to kill you out, that is so scary. I can't emphasize that enough. And the fact that it's happening to the minorities, it makes it worse. We are already treated a certain type of way because we're black, Spanish, and brown. Now to know that we're being killed out and nobody cares, that is a scary thing. It's scary. It's bad enough I gotta talk to my son about police and don't go this way and don't go that way. Now I gotta tell him, don't brush your teeth until I give you this bottle of water. Don't eat that until mommy gets clean water. This is what you want, President, Mr. Mayor? This is what you want us down? This is what you want us reduced to? I'm reduced to it. And I'm sick of it. And you need to make a change. Enough is enough.
Brush your teeth, wash your face. Don't use the faucet. They came from down south. So, it's really a scary thing. It's stressful. You know, my neighbors next door, they've been in the hospital 3, 4, 5 times already because of breathing in the air. You know, they have like asthma and all that stuff, but all the stuff keeps coming in with the mold. And much as fast as you clean the mold, it comes right back. The dust. We be trying to figure out where's this coming from, you know, and it's just scary, you know. It needs to be stopped. Something needs to be done about it. I don't know about who the mayor is. That's your job. Get it done or you won't be voted for next round. Thank you.
Thank you. What was your name?
Judy Wade.
Judy Wade.
Right.
Hey, Artie, do you have a few minutes? Yeah. Real quick. Back. So just we're live on YouTube. For the audience, just introduce yourself and how you got involved here at Jacob Riis or with NYC going around. Because I know you go to Queensbridge, right, and a couple of developments, right?
So I'm Artie. I'm with an organization called Dare to Struggle. We're an organization whose mission statement is to go to where the oppressed peoples in our region are and organize them in collective struggle. Now, you know, we started off by going to the Queensbridge projects, which are the largest projects in the country, 96 buildings, thousands of people. And, you know, we learned from talking to people there that NYC had gotten worse. Public housing, the condition of it had gotten worse after the pandemic. And the number one contradiction that people were bringing up was between them and NYC in terms of not getting repairs done. Walls falling apart, vermin, mold, putting people's health at risk. So we started having protests and speak-outs and eventually responding to the crisis here at Jacob Riis Houses, where people learned that there was arsenic detected in their tap water. The city retracted the statement, but ultimately people are still sick, people have been dying, and so we continue to like persist being out here and bringing like the truth behind NYC's privatization and the privatization of public housing to the people living here. Because our orientation is this, is that the people subjected to this nightmare, the people subjected to these conditions are the ones who should be brought out to like change it, to fight against it. So, you know, we're out here because we had a presentation on what's going on with the contaminated soil here. Residents wanted to make a plan on like how to keep this going, so we made a protest. And so we had people speak out to what's going on, brought some press over to keep this relevant and expose this, because that's our greatest weapon we have in this fight.
I remember you found out about the contaminated soil at that meeting back in April, right? Yeah. Can you just explain about what happened at that meeting?
So essentially what they did to let people know that this was happening was put a couple of flyers in certain buildings the day of, a night before. And these things were like, oh, come to the MGP cleanup site meeting. This goes into nothing about what we actually found in looking at the links that were on this flyer, which were the fact that they're announcing that Jacob Riis sits on top of a Superfund site, a environmental cleanup site dating back to an old coal tar gas plant operating between like the late 1800s to the mid 1900s. They wanted very little people to go out there, but it wasn't until Dare to Struggle and Rogue Residents we started calling people to get them out to the meeting that, you know, we flooded the room. We took over that meeting, shut it down because they were saying, yeah, this is true, there's poison here, but we're taking care of it, so don't worry about it. And, you know, we shut it down, had residents speaking to not only what's going on the outside of people's apartments, but also on the inside, where people are left with mold and rats and roaches to make way for their privatization schemes, right? They're leaving people in these fucked up conditions, so the people who can go will go, and the people who can't will be tricked into signing new leases with private management. And this has only amounted to, yeah, some people getting repairs, but a lot of people getting put the fuck out, you know? And so we're trying to get as many people out talking about this, not to lobby politicians, not to beg for some sort of remediation, but to actually put this on the table that the people here can run this shit better than the people at the top. And that goes into all aspects of society, where the oppressed people living in this country should be mobilized to fight wherever oppression manifests, to like take this shit down, you know, and make a system that's based on human need and on not greed and profit and the needs of the people at the top, you know. And you can see people here, like, you know, people here are still getting sick. There are high rates of asthma, high rates of lupus, you know, different degenerative diseases, you know. And so this is not just us like flaring our legs, you know. This is like residents have been coming out. It looks dire. There are people here who are saying, oh, we're sick, we need help, this, but at the same time, these very same people are the ones who have been coming out, fighting this shit, taking it to the management office, making demands, going to 250 Broadway, you know, leaving bottles of dirty water at Eric Adams' footsteps, you know, like, these are bold things, and it's happening from people here. So people, the 400,000 people living in public housing, they should be doing the same. Coming together, squashing their differences, and starting to take on the real enemy. Pointing the guns in the right direction. Not at the immigrants who are being brought in to be like exploited to holy hell, only to be sent out when ICE no longer needs them, when this country no longer needs them, you know? But to actually see it as a bigger problem of the fact that poor and oppressed people are seen as disposable, and they need to fight back against it.
Where can people find, what's the Dare to Struggle social media links?
Yeah, so it's Dare to Struggle NYC for Instagram, all the socials. Our website is daretostruggleny.org. If you want to join us, we're about going to the masses of oppressed people, hearing from them, learning from them, and organizing them in struggle. And it's not easy. Like, we've been doing this for months, basically being here week after week, 3 days on a week, you know, to actually get people together. So if you're down with being a part of that, if you want to like actually make plans on how to take on this fucked up system, it's daretostruggleny.org.
Thank you.
Thanks for
come talk to you. I'm gonna sign this off. All right, guys. So that was the rally here at Jacob Riis. They're going to be having some more rallies and protests going on in the upcoming months. So let me just check the live chat here. If you did donate a super chat or whatever it's called, thank you. All right, so we will keep you posted on upcoming events, rallies, protests that we're going to be covering. So thank you for tuning in, thank you for joining, thank you for watching, and go follow Dare to Struggle on Twitter, on Instagram, go to their website. If you can get involved, please get involved. They need all the help they can get. And we'll see you soon. Take care.